After the rulers killed their creator, the absolute being, they took it upon themselves to defeat the monarchs once and for all. However, the massive war between the fragments of light and darkness results in the complete decimation of humanity. The rulers used the tools and weapons of the absolute being to hunt down the monarchs. With them, they were able to capture Legia, the king of giants, completely shifting the war in their favor. As a result, the monarchs sought another world to use to help rebuild their army, setting their eyes on Earth. The monolith world was no match for the monarchs, which led to the annihilation of humans. Noticing the movement of the monarchs, the rulers rushed to Earth, but they were too late. All that was left was a world covered in the sea of flames. Angry at the army of the monarchs managed to bring destruction to another world, they turned to using the Cup of Reincarnation to reverse time and fix their mistake. However, despite having the power to reverse time, the monarchs who were unaffected by it used the reversal of time to change up their strategies, causing the rulers to always be one step behind and force them to reuse the cup again and again to save the humans. After many attempts, the rulers realized that they could not save everyone, so they decided to introduce the humans in their world to Mana. By doing so, they created awakened humans known as Hunters, with the hopes that these evolved humans will be able to survive the war and continue their civilization. In one of these revised timelines, we follow the life of Chahhai. However, in this timeline, she awakens a lot sooner than in the timeline we know and possesses an entirely new power. After her world became infested with gates that possess portals to worlds filled with monsters, Han continued trying to pursue a career in track and field. While on a jog, she suddenly came across a dungeon break. As civilians ran seeking cover, Han stood in place. Instead of running, she wondered how she could take down the beast. Her body began to move on its own. As she ran towards the monster, dozens of swords suddenly appeared behind her, and she flawlessly took down the beast alone. Just as she defeated the monster, a worker from the Hunters Association witnessed the one-sided battle and declared Han as Korea's newest and youngest S-rank hunter, awakening at just 17 years old. Since she was so young, she was taken under by the chairman of the Hunters Association, Go Gun-hee, and worked for the association. During one of her raids, she worked with two newly instated hunters, Lee Joo-hee, a B-rank hunter, and Sun Jin-woo, an E-rank hunter. The hunter was so weak that she nearly mistook him for a civilian, only realizing that he was a hunter after smelling a faint scent from him. Being his first raid, Han advised Jin-woo to stay vigilant and to be careful. Han and her team began their raid. As they fought, Han effortlessly gave out commands, placing each hunter in their ideal role and executing an almost flawless victory. That was until Jin-woo got hurt. They had barely begun their raid, but Jin-woo was already injured. Han saw absolutely no potential in Jin-woo as a hunter, and saw him as utterly useless for her team. To not slow the rest of them down, she ordered him to stay behind the healers as they continued their raid. However, at the end of the raid, while everyone was okay, Jin-woo still managed to get injured. Even after placing him behind the healers and protecting him during the most dangerous moments of the raid, the E-rank hunter still managed to get himself hurt. Han did not understand Jin-woo or why he disobeyed her orders. Had he been stronger and possessed skills, she would understand. But the fact that despite being useless, Jin-woo still put himself in harm's way made Han feel uneasy, and she was frustrated by Jin-woo's actions. To be so reckless for a mere handful of essence stones, Han hoped that she would never see Jin-woo again. But the world had different plans. Again, Jin-woo joined the Hunter Association for a raid led by Han. Before the raid, Han had confided her difficulties with Chairman Gun-hee, and how she didn't understand Jin-woo. Having had his fair share of raids, Gun-hee advised Han that by working with Jin-woo, she may be able to find her calling and discover what she wants to do with her future. Trying to work with Jin-woo, she told Jin-woo that he should work as their raid porter, carrying the supplies and staying away from the battlefield. But Jin-woo, although hesitant, turned down Han's offer, stating that he needed to earn as much as he possibly could. So if he needed to, he would carry the supplies while he fought, reassuring her that he would try not to be a burden. Shocked, Han was left speechless. She did not understand why Jin was being so persistent. Again, this weak E-rank hunter found a way to get under her skin. But regardless, she decided to let Jin-woo do what he wanted and decided to make sure that Jin-woo didn't get a chance to interfere in the raid, placing him in the back. Han made sure that Jinwoo stayed out of the battle, but trouble always found a way to find Jinwoo. Before moving on to the next area, the team tried to have a roll call, but when they went over the numbers, Jinwoo was missing. With Juhee, Han set out to find Jinwoo. As they retraced their steps, they found Jinwoo sprawled on the ground, bloody and nearly dead. Apparently, Jinwoo had saw a stray monster hiding and tried to kill him himself. Since he was unable to get any essence stones during the raid, he followed it, but he got lost and nearly died when encountering it. This was the last straw for Han. Tired of Jinwoo's antics, she straightforwardly told him to quit being a hunter and to find something he was good at. But even after being yelled at, Jinwoo still wore a nervous smile on his face. Han couldn't understand Jinwoo. Everything about him contradicted what she strived for, a flawless victory, a raid without unnecessary variables and hindrances, and Jinwoo was exactly that. Generally confused, Han asked Jinwoo why he tried so hard when he was so weak. Expecting Jinwoo to nervously laugh and give a half-assed answer, she was surprised when Jinwoo did not smile like before. He wore a serious expression on his face and answered Han with no hesitation, telling her that he had people that were dependent on him back home. So even though she was trying to stop him, Jinwoo told Han that no matter what, he will fight to the very end. Although Jinwoo was the weakest hunter she had ever met, he possessed the strongest conviction Han had ever seen. With his unwavering stare, Han knew that Jinwoo meant every word that he said. It was only after hearing Jinwoo's answer that Han realized what she needed to do with her life. Even though Jinwoo's skills weren't much, his passion was unstoppable. Han realized that she was judging others by the wrong metrics. Jinwoo was fighting just as hard as Han for the same goal. It wasn't fair to ostracize him when he had just as much as a will as everyone to fight. She realized that true victory is achieved by helping everyone accomplish their goals, and that a true commander is someone who unites and leads the entire team towards their own individual victories. Moved by Jinwoo's words, Han decided to stop looking down on him and decided to treat him as a comrade. Although Jinwoo was weak, he had very good perception skills. So to allow him to fight, she encouraged Jinwoo to act as a scout for them, keeping track of strays or blind spots of enemies. With their new formation, Han and her team were successfully able to flawlessly clear the raid. By the end of the raid, Jinwoo was safe and he was successfully able to gain a lot more essence stones. Before leaving, Jinwoo thanked Han for her great leadership skills and for helping him fight. Han was just as grateful. Because of Jinwoo, she was able to find her purpose. Glad to have met him, she hoped that she would cross paths with him again sometime. Days later, Han went to Chairman Gunhee and told him that she had decided to make her very own guild, known as the Valkyrie. With a new burning passion in her heart, Han set out to create a guild filled with passionate hunters, all working towards true victory. With her newfound conviction, Han's guild became one of the most successful guilds in Korea. However, in time, they fell prey to the destruction of the monarchs and the war against the rulers, forcing the rulers to rewind time once again. If you have made this far into the video and are enjoying it, please make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you are informed when content like this drops again. Now to the next timeline, we follow that of the Monarch of Destruction. While hiding in a dimensional crack with millions of his soldiers prepared to attack Earth, Terry suddenly finds himself inside the body of a human. But not just any human, he found himself inside his son Jinwoo, the weakest E-rank hunter. Terry looked at himself in the mirror, peering at his pathetic physique and numerous injuries on his body. By peering into the memories of his vessel, Terry discovered that Jinwoo was a hunter who went on numerous dangerous raids in order to provide for his sick mother and younger sister. Suddenly, the Dragon King received a call from the Hunters Association telling him that he was going to be late. Being the King of the Dragons, to call him the incarnation of almightiness late was to label him incompetent. Determined to never let such a disgrace stain his title, Terry's used his magic to quickly pinpoint the location of the Hunters Association worker, and within seconds appeared on the job site. Satisfied with his ability to show up on time, Terry thought that it would only be fitting for him to have a cup of coffee. Snatching the last cup of joe, Terry downed the beverage and was prepared to start the raid. Noticing Terry's mannerisms, the rest of the raid party began to wonder what was wrong with Jinwoo. They went on to raid the dungeon, but Antares could feel something was different about the dungeon. He knew that the gates were portals made by the rulers, but for some reason he could feel the energy of a monarch within the gate they were entering. So he decided to check it out. Within the gate, Antares let loose and killed every monster, completely shocking Jinwoo's comrades. The frail and weakest hunter that they knew and loved was in the forefront of the battlefield, treating the monsters like ragdolls, completely ripping through them as if they were nothing. After taking care of the enemies, Antares rushed the group to hurry up and continue, but Mr. Song tried to tell him that they needed to vote on whether or not they wanted to continue, but Jinwoo knocked them out and threatened to use force on the rest if they had any complaints. Terrified, the rest of the group kept their mouths shut and followed Antares' lead. Eventually, they made it to the double dungeon and went inside. As soon as they entered, the room lit up, revealing numerous stone statues scattered within the room. They investigated the room and found one of the statues holding a list of commandments. As Antares read through them, Chahhai tried to warn her comrade about the eerie feeling about being looked at by the statues, but Antares pushed her off of him and told her to back off. But Chahhai's worries were warranted, and suddenly the biggest statue in the room's eyes began to glow and fire a beam at the group of hunters. But Antares did not back down. Instead, he welcomed the assault and took the full brunt of the attack, going as far as to answer back with an attack of his own, sending a beam of destruction back at the statue. Seeing their king hurt, the rest of the stone statues rushed towards Antares, prepared to battle, but their efforts were futile. Like their king, they ended up becoming rubble beneath the monarch's feet. Fuming, the statue containing the architect screamed at Antares for destroying all his work in mere minutes. But Antares was not in the mood to hear his complaints and told him to shut up, telling him to bring out the true authority behind the dungeon. Hearing his challenge, Ashmore could take Antares' actions no longer and confront the King of Dragons himself, taking over the body of the king's statue. Ashmore swore to end their ill-fated connection today. Overjoyed, Antares told the Shadow Monarch to bring it as he leapt towards the Shadow Goliath. The story ends with Jinwoo awakening from a dream, confused at what he had just seen. Although some believe that this timeline never happened and that Jinwoo was just dreaming, it's because Jinwoo had his dream that we must assume that these events actually happened. In Ragnarok, it is a recurring theme that dreams hold more weight than people think. Although humans are affected by time, the remnants of these timelines tend to manifest as dreams to remind the dreamer of events that took place in another timeline and tend to influence the dreamer. This is seen with Jinho, with his countless dreams about his raid missions with Jinwoo. In Ragnarok, these dreams influence him to create the game known as Solo Leveling Ragnarok, which is a game about a single hunter who bravely fought against monsters alone to grow stronger and prevent the end of the world. A suitable conclusion is that after fusing with Ashbourne and becoming the new Shadow Monarch, it is most likely that this dream was a dormant memory of Ashbourne. The rules reverse time again and again. However, with each reversal, the Monarchs grew more cunning and switched their strategy, making it almost impossible for them to prevent the Earth from falling to the Monarchs. Even after introducing the humans and their Earth to Mana to fortify the world for the upcoming war between them and the Monarchs, they still could not prevent the destruction of Earth, resulting in countless timelines ending in death and destruction. This was until Sun Jinwoo became the vessel of the Shadow Monarch. Jinwoo, the Dark Horse, was an unknown variable to the rulers. They did not know whether or not Ashmore had influenced the human and still sought revenge for the death of their master. So they were very wary of him and even set aside a trap to take him down in case he sided with the Monarchs. However, after watching him closely through the eyes of Go Gunhee and Sung Ilwan, they realized that Jinwoo was fighting to protect the humans and decided to ally themselves with him, betting everything on him. They made the right decision, and with Jinwoo's strategy and help, the rulers were finally able to stop the Monarchs and prevent the destruction of Earth. Although this was the best ending that they had ever gotten through their countless battles with the Monarchs, this was not enough for their hero, Sun Jinwoo. To him, he had lost too many friends and family, and he wanted another chance to correct everything. He asked the rulers if he could use the Cup of Reincarnation one more time. He told the rulers not to introduce Mana to Earth, and that instead to allow him to take on the Monarchs by himself. Although the rulers were hesitant, since they only had one more use of the Cup of Reincarnation, they could see the determination in the humans' eyes, reminding them of their brother Ashbourne. the greatest fragment of light. And like before, they decided to place their bet on him once again. And just like that, the rulers used the Cup of Reincarnation once more for the last time, hoping that Jinwoo could fulfill his promise. After enjoying some time with his friends and family, Jinwoo left a note and disappeared. For 2 years in Earth time, he was gone. However, within the void between dimensions, for 27 years, Jinwoo tracked and killed the Monarchs and their armies, slaying them one by one until he defeated their leader Antares. When Jinwoo finally returned to Earth, he was greeted by one of the rulers. Speaking on behalf of his brothers, the rulers thanked Jinwoo for doing what they couldn't. However, they warned him that he should consider living in another world, since his massive monarch will have an effect on Earth and potentially garner unwanted attention. But Jinwoo declined their offer and decided to live on Earth and continue his life there. Respecting his decision, the rulers left Jinwoo on Earth and went back to their home. Unfortunately, after many years of peace, an even greater threat sought to disrupt their peace and destroy their entire universe. This threat was known as the Etarum. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and comment down below what your favorite timeline in soul leveling is. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.